The national government has no political will at all to address the root causes of this violence in Egypt or to deal with the larger question. As an example to cite, on the 4th and 5th of July 2013, a mob gathered in the village of Naga Hassan Luqsor to start this attack on Christians. They went from house to house searching for the Christians, finally found them hidden in one house. They attempted to attack, the police arrived. The police, instead of saving those Christians from death, then negotiated with the mob and reached an agreement whereby the women and children would be saved and the men would be left to die. The women begged the police officers. They fell on the police officer's legs, begging him to save their husbands. He said no, he had given his word to the mob. As the police was leaving the room, the men were butchered. 4 men were killed in that house that day. When asked by Human Rights Watch later on, the head of the Egyptian security in the governorate of Luxor, Major Khaled Hassan, replied as to what had happened that he saw nothing wrong with the police performance. According to him, and that's a direct quote, there was no reason for the police to take any special measures. It's not the police's job to stop killings. We just investigate afterwards. Specifically to the rule of law, I think there has been a lot of focus on general words. We need to have a general situation where people in Egypt are all treated equally. These are all nice words, but the important thing is specifics that can deal with that situation. I would like to suggest a few. First, identification. It doesn't take a genius to identify what are the most vulnerable villages in Egypt that are likely to witness attacks. Experts on the situation of Christians in Egypt could have told you before the 14th of August that the governorate of Minya was likely to have the most attacks. So a process needs to be there where the 100 most vulnerable villages can be identified. The Egyptian government should be urged to do that. The US might be able to help, giving resources to help that process of happening. So that's important to prevent those attacks from happening in the first place. Secondly, the Egyptian police needs to have a security protocol to deal with mob violence. Again, if this situation has been repeating itself one time after the other, there needs to be a clear security protocol on how to deal with those specific incidents. Thirdly, a crisis office in the Egyptian presidency that has actual power to deal specifically with that issue, so that it's not an issue left to each local governor or local police station to deal with, but there is a headquarters that deals with it. Fourthly, a rapid response unit, whereby once a situation is created in one of those villages, and that office immediately sends a rapid response unit to deal with that situation in the village. Fifth, the reform of the legal system in terms of having actual punishment, giving up on those reconciliation sessions, punishing those people that attack the Christians. Lastly, a localized reward and punishment system. Again, if the governorate of Minya witnesses the most attacks on Christians and the local authorities there are not willing to protect the religious minorities, are the worst violators of human rights, then probably the governorate of Minya should not be receiving US funding through US aid. Perhaps the governorate of Sohag, which has a better performance on those issues, would get more US aid funding on that regard. So localizing both punishment and rewards for the governorates in an attempt to enforce the local governors and the local authorities to deal with those specific issues. Thank you.